Okay, now this is going to be about how upset women are about their life because they don't know who they are. You're still free, to blame whoever you want to blame for things because nobody can stop you. So it's like, what are we going to do? But complain about whoever you want to complain about. But know this, a lot of times, well, this is true for men and for women. um, this is true for both of us, but of course, like I say, I'm a women's life coach, so I'm talking to women. But um, women are angry a lot of times because things happen to them that they allow to happen because they don't know their boundaries, and they don't know how to say no to something, and they don't know what they want in life because they don't even ask themselves what they want from life a lot of the times. And a lot of them feel kind of aimless and, like they're not going anywhere, or like no matter what they do, nothing works and stuff like that. And they don't know how to focus on something because there's so many things, there's so many different things that have to be done. Women have to wear a lot of hats these days, and there's just so much that's got to be done. And it's easy to get scattered and spread thin and worn out. But because they don't know who they are, that shit, gets on their nerves, and they don't have any direction. They don't have any inner direction. And not knowing your boundaries is like one of the worst things for you. Isn't not knowing, well, not knowing your boundaries is one thing, but knowing your boundaries and then letting them get violated anyway, because you don't respect yourself enough, you don't love yourself enough to say no, or whatever, and you let people walk all over you anyway, even though you hate it. That's about the worst thing ever, and that is a huge self-esteem issue, because you're letting shit happen because you are convinced that you don't deserve better. Because if you thought you deserved better, you wouldn't be letting that shit happen. Some of this stuff is simple. Some of it is simple, some of it's not, but that part is simple. But the reason it takes so long to learn that, especially for us, is because we go through life, under the impression, and this never gets corrected. This never gets rectified by anybody. People let us do this. But we go through life thinking we've got to be what everybody else wants and needs all the time. Well, he needs you to do this. He wants you to do this. The child needs you to do this, and the child wants you to do that. Well, so-and-so, well, your manager needs this, and your manager wants you to be this way, and, your relatives need you to be like this and have this facade and want you to be this way and make them look good in such way. You've got to, it's so much work giving everybody else what they want, because as soon as you quit living for everybody else and start living for yourself, all of a sudden there's chaos. Because everybody around you is expecting you to do what they want and be what they want, and it's been that way for so many thousands of years that it's ingrained now, and we think that that's how we're supposed to do, and that's just life, and that's just how life is going to be. It doesn't have to be that way, but because women have been taught for so many millennia to ignore who they are and ignore themselves and abandon themselves completely, it's really ruined us, and that system is not working anymore because we're suffering too much from it. And you see a lot of women who are just really going against the grain because they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. That system of just doing what everybody else wants all the time and not doing anything for you, or not even exploring yourself, even to explore yourself and try to learn about yourself, that's just, there's no time for that. And that's really, bringing us down. And because we haven't been encouraged to figure ourselves out, and then when we do, people, you can put it to the test. You can put it to the test and talk about it in public and see what people do. Just talk about it to people and see what people's reactions are. And most of it's going to be, that's a little weird. Why would you bother doing that? Why is that necessary? What's missing from your life that, you've got all this, blah, blah, blah. What's your complaint? And you'll hear a lot of that. And people can cater to everybody else and have a good paycheck and have their own apartment or whatever and still be miserable. They're miserable because they don't know who they are. They just don't know who they are. I'm not saying that's the only reason they can be miserable. But especially for us, that's a big one. We don't know who we are. And figuring that out, that's different for everybody, but, figuring it out, you just have to ask yourself the right questions. Ask yourself what your values are and what your morals are. And then ask yourself why you have those values and those morals. And ask yourself about your fears and why you have those fears and what happened early in your life that gave you those fears. Where does that come from? When was the first time you felt that way? Who was there? What was said? What happened? What did you do? And how did you feel after that? And why are you still carrying it with you? You see what I mean? You have to ask yourself that stuff. But if you don't know how to do that, that's what life coaches are for. Therapists and counselors, maybe not so much. They're usually more happier with just telling you what's wrong with you. But I disagree with that way of doing things. And the question isn't what's wrong with you. The question is what happened to you. That's a lot more important. And to try to figure out is what happened. So, because people act the way they act because of something that was done. What else would it be? What else would it be? Well, so-and-so did this. They always act like this. Well, you need to find out something else about their life, if you can, and maybe find out why they act that way. It's probably a protective mechanism. Something might have gone wrong a long time ago, and they just never bounce back, and this is how they do. That's half of the planet. So, and people don't know themselves, so they don't know how to get to the bottom of it and figure things out and just investigate. And they wonder why they do stuff like that. And it's, because they don't look into it. They don't ask the questions. You got to ask questions about stuff. That's why, like I say, people like me who ask questions and try to get to the bottom of things can be unpopular because we're trying to investigate to get the story. A lot of people don't want that, but one day it's going to come out anyway, because I'm not going to be the only son of a bitch that's going to investigate. I'm not the only person that's interested in it. About an individual, maybe, I don't know, but, for example, other stuff that's going to come out anyway, like government or whatever, that's all going to come out someday. All that big stuff especially, because you can't hide a big story forever. But, shit like that, it's just, boundaries especially, because women will not even know what their boundaries are, because especially if they grew up like me and were taught, not to fight back, and especially not to challenge the man in the house, which is how I grew up. That really can get ingrained, and it does. They make sure it does, and you can't ask questions about that because, that's not cool. That's not going to work. That's not, because like I said in my last video, the household that I grew up in, when Dad got home, you didn't fucking budge. You didn't say anything. Don't talk to him unless you're spoken to for the most part. You had to run around and look busy, and there was no speaking up or questioning something or saying no. There was no saying no. There was one time, I forgive him all of this, but there was one time when Dad was going somewhere. I forgot where it was. He had to go somewhere, and he asked me if I wanted to go because he didn't want to do anything by himself. He always wanted somebody to go with him. A lot of the time, me or Philip or Mom had to just kind of drop what we were doing and just go with him because he didn't want to do it alone. And I don't know why that is. I don't know. But there was one night when I was like an older teenager. I was either an older teenager or I was already out of high school and had come back from work and was tired or something. I remember not feeling like doing anything. I just know that part. And I came downstairs to put something in the garage in the laundry because our machines were out there. And as I was going into the garage, he said, I got to go do such and such. Do you want to go with me? And I said, well, I'm just really exhausted. I've had a trying day. I'm not feeling up to anything right now. And poor dad, bless him, he actually looked at me and said, well, to hell with you. He said, to hell with you, to me. I was his favorite kid. And he said, to hell with you, to me, because I said I didn't want to go somewhere with him. That was a long time ago, but I mean, I'm just, people do shit. But what I mean is, I grew up being taught that you didn't argue with men. You just didn't do it. Because if you did, you got clocked. And I did. Got clocked. And that was just the way things were. It's just the way it was. And so, like I say, in my last video, I said this too. When I had boyfriends, I did what they told me. I did as I was told. And then my parents had the nerve to be confused about it. Like when I'd bring home losers and shit. Miranda, why are you bringing home these losers? What are you talking about? Well, they're just losers. Like, why are you picking losers? And I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Because they waited until I was too old to influence, They waited too long to start questioning, or investigate what I was doing. And I was already out dating and going to a job every day and, paying for my own stuff and shit like that. And, so, I forgot what I was telling you. But anyway, yeah, no, so there were some things that, just never got cleared up. But, women, they're not taught about themselves at all. They're not taught about their bodies. They don't know anything about, ovulation and shit like that. This boy, I was talking to this boy yesterday, and he was asking me questions. He was sincere though, like he was trying to learn something, and he was asking me questions about ovulation and stuff like that, and I couldn't answer his questions. I couldn't, because he was asking me something about his girlfriend because she was having problems with something, and I didn't know what to tell. I didn't know what to tell him. I had no idea, because I know fuck all about ovulation. I mean, I don't know. I don't think we ever even learned in school. And if we did, it was probably like for 5 minutes. It's just not focused on. We have to kind of figure all that out by ourselves after things like really go wrong, and then we have to go to the doctor. But, we're not taught things. People don't sit their daughters down and educate their little asses. And then they grow up and start making big mistakes and stuff and make poor ass choices. And everybody's like, well, what's wrong with you, you stupid bitch? How did you not see this coming? Well, goddamn, no one told me. Damn. Shit. Fuck. No one fucking informed me. That's why. It's like no matter how many times you try to tell people that it's because you don't know what's going on, and then they look at you and just feel sorry for you. Shit. Forget it. Just forget it. But that's just how things are. That's just how it goes. And it's been that way for a long time. And it's just been that way for a long time. So the people don't correct it. They don't intervene. They just kind of like, let it continue. So we have to, the ones of us, those of us that, wake up and see the light and, and figure it out, crack the code. we have to do, the things that I do, where I sit here and try to inform people about shit that happens and why it happens, and at least from our point of view, and just try to help people and inform people, because like, it's got to be done. Somebody's got to say something. Somebody's got to speak up. But what I'm trying to get at is that women, and especially with the self-esteem issues, because a girl's self-esteem, and this has been in the past few thousand years when things like really started going backwards for us. When the scales just went, because before that, I'm going to say it, before monotheism and there was a deity for both genders, there was a lot more equality. And I don't think they would have had the problems, those women had the problems that we've been having. I don't think they had those issues, because everybody's life mattered, everybody's life and contribution was valuable because there was divinity in both people, in both of them. So it's like, but anyway, that's my take on it. That's just what I think. There's always going to be somebody that says, oh, that's wrong. And that's fine if they want to tell me I'm wrong, but, neither of our asses were there during that shift, so we're just going to have to agree to disagree. Regardless. But that being the case, women not being taught about themselves, that has really screwed us up. But like I say, in the past few millennia, girls' self-esteem just plunges, right around 12 or 13. It just really plunges. And nobody really investigates that, or wants to look into it or try to correct it or anything. They just kind of like let it go and say, oh, that's weird. Well, anyway, have a good day. And it's like, you don't want to try to figure out what happened. One time I was 14. I think I was 14. I wasn't any older than that. And I was just at my wits' end. And I was at the end of my rope, mentally. And I wrote a letter to my school, to one of my teachers or somebody at the school. I wrote a letter, like 2 or 3 pages, where I tore myself to shreds. And I just ripped myself apart. I really did. I said horrible, horrible, horrible things about myself. Horrible things. And I just scribbled it all out, and I handed it to somebody or dropped it in somebody's mailbox at the school, whatever. I don't know who the fuck I gave it to, but somebody got it and called my parents and were freaking out. Because by then I was already known for suicidal tendencies and stuff like that. So everybody got kind of worried. And that wasn't, yeah, it's a cry for help. It's always a cry for help when someone does that. Of course, that's what it is. Of course, it's what it is. But, I had to say it. I couldn't take it anymore. I just had to say it. And for some fucking reason, I signed my name at the bottom, but, so, they knew who it was. But, I remember when it got back to the house, it was in my father's hands. And he was so confused by that, so terribly confused by that. And he called me into the room, and there it was in his hands. And I just thought, not this, because I didn't want to fucking deal with the aftermath, which is sad. Now I think about it, but he said, Miranda, where is this coming from? And the reason parents say, where is this coming from, is because they're not paying attention, number one, and they don't think about what they say to their children, and they don't ask their children questions about how they feel and about their life and how they're doing, and they don't investigate and they don't look into things. And I was that way up until recently, up until pretty recent in my life. I was that way. I mean, like in the past month, I've quit feeling that way. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've got it all squared away and I've got it all figured. Those damn cicadas. You know, those things are so loud. They're deafening. When you get like 10 or 20 of them in one tree, they're deafening. But anyway, so Dad had that letter in his hand, and he said, Miranda, you just, you start tearing yourself apart in this letter. I don't understand. Everybody was like so confused as to, where I was coming from. And I just kind of shrugged, and we didn't get any answers or resolution or anything. Nothing got fixed or whatever. And I just went on and on and on like that, and went on and on that way. And in the past month, I have felt better about my life than, and that was the 90s when that took place. But in the past month, I have felt better about my life than I ever have. I have felt better about what I'm doing, and felt better about myself and what I think of myself day to day than I ever have in my life. And I think back on that girl that wrote that letter, and how bad she felt because she didn't know herself, and the trial and tribulation it took after that to get to the point where I'm at now, where I don't feel that way anymore. And I'm not even tempted to feel that way. Like, a lot of times I'll feel good, and then, like, I'll have those intrusive thoughts that say, no, you're worthless, don't you ever forget it. And I don't even have that anymore. I don't even have that now. So, whatever. But my point is, women really are not taught about themselves at all. And the child has to be taught things. They have to be taught things, period. That's it. That's it. And not knowing yourself is the worst thing ever. It really is, because if you don't know yourself, you're not going to know anything else. If you can't figure yourself out, you're not going to be able to figure anybody else out, and you're going to be sitting there wondering why shit's happening. And the good thing about knowing yourself is that, well, it could go two ways, I guess. One way, you know yourself, and therefore you know other people, because you can relate. Or the other way, you know yourself, and then you don't have to worry about trying to understand other people, because you at least understand yourself. And that may be all you need. For some people, it may be that way. I don't know. It's just a thought. But knowing who you are, and as a person and as a human being, that cuts out a lot of other work that you won't have to do, and it cuts out a lot of worry. Obviously, if you want to go deeper, that's, you can always get in touch with me, and we'll just explore it. But because it's going to be different for every person, right? Because we're all different. But I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. None of that. And people are afraid to explore themselves because it's the self. The self is scary, because you don't know what's in there. You don't want to come face to face with something that you don't like, or you don't want to see, or you think would be unforgivable or unlovable. Even as children, every child is taught somewhere along the way that some part of them is unacceptable and shouldn't be put on display. Oh, don't do that. People won't like that. And I heard that a lot. So-and-so's not going to like that. No, they're not. People aren't going to like that. People are going to laugh at you. Don't do that. And there was a lot that I just, like, smothered. And no kid should have to do that. No one should have to do that. If you want to, do a sport, or be in the talent show, or whatever, a costume contest or something, whatever, I don't care what it is, let the kid do it. Just let them do it. Why is that so unacceptable? When you were that kid's age, who taught you that, you couldn't be yourself? Because somebody did. Which is why you're continuing the damn shitty ass cycle. Oh, don't do that. Society's not gonna like that. Fuck society. You think I give a shit what strangers think of me? What are they doing for me? What are they doing for me? I mean, what? So knowing who you are is can change your life. It'll always change your life for the better. It'll always improve your life because you can figure things out. But that's especially for women, and this the same thing applies to men. This is everybody. This is every human being on the planet. But for women, they especially think they're angry at men. Well, they are angry. They got reason to be angry at men. That men are still killing us and stuff. So that's reason enough to be angry. Um, but because they take advantage of being bigger than us, and women think that guns are violent, so they don't have guns, and it's like you just paint a target on yourself. That's just my take. But I mean, you can't refuse to protect yourself and then get upset when somebody takes advantage of you like that. It's one or the other, and it just takes a lot of trial and tribulation, a lot of trial and error to finally realize that. That's all. Not the end of the world. Just takes a long time. So, and women have reason enough to be angry at men, at least for the stuff we've been complaining about, and the troubles we've had with them for the past million years, whatever, that we've been on the planet. Um, we're right to say, at least some of what we're saying, because we all go through it with them. We all go through it with them, and that part I'm not going to sugarcoat, because I can't. I'd be doing us a disservice if I said that stuff wasn't happening, because it is. But um, the reason they get by with that shit with you is because you don't know yourself well enough to know how to put a stop to it. And them killing us and raping us probably isn't going to go away. So that being the cold hard truth, you've got to that's making it to where you've got two options, essentially. You know, let it continue where they are getting by with shit, and being abusive and taking advantage of things like that and swindling you, just to get between your legs, the age old story, and let it continue because you don't want to be difficult, or you were taught to not be difficult, and you were taught to not fight back like so many of us were. Or you put your fucking foot down and ask yourself once and for all, okay, what do I want from this life? And you either and you pursue it, and you make it happen, and you make your life what you want it to be. And if that means cutting somebody out that has really abused you and done you wrong, cut them out. It's fine. So, say la vie, but I mean, you're going to be presented with a choice one day. There will come a day when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, to the point where it drives you to start investigating yourself. And that's when you start really having realizations about why things have happened. In a way, you let it happen, but you let it happen, most likely because you were taught something a long time ago by somebody who didn't know what they were talking about. And shit happens. Shit happens. I can't sugarcoat that, but you can figure it out. You can get to the bottom of it. And if you need help with that, of course, get in touch with me. But because I'm willing to investigate any situation to see, what's up with you, and what your patterns are, and what your mindset is, and where it came from. It came from somewhere. Everyone's mindset came from somewhere. Just because they think they came up with everything on their own and they don't realize who influenced them throughout their life, doesn't mean that that's what it is. It doesn't make it true. It's just what they think. The shit that's been programmed into you when you were too young to know any different, has been programmed into you because you were too young to know any different, period. But mainly, especially for women, and men should ask themselves this question too. This is for everybody, but there's going to come a day when you just have to stop in your tracks and say, okay, what do I really want here? And that's when you start cutting things out of your life because you realize what you realize what you don't want. And that's when you start realizing your boundaries and what's being violated, and shit like that. And whether you've allowed it or the other person did, that part doesn't matter. Just forget that part for the time being. But you just got to ask yourself questions and say, okay, what do I want? What do I believe in? Why do I believe in it? Who taught me that? Why do I feel that way? What does this remind me of? Shit like that. And, or who was the first person to make me feel that way? Was that somebody influential in my life, or was it somebody that just like was a passerby, or what? And that part really doesn't even matter, because anybody can say something to you that just sticks. I've had strangers say shit to me that stuck, but that not knowing yourself, you're gonna have to one day. You're gonna have to figure things out. And I, spent a lot of years being angry at myself for letting people do shit to me when I thought, I should have known better or whatever. I should have known better. I should have seen this coming. I should have. And that's not the case. You don't have to be mad at yourself for that. I think that's all I want to say on that topic for now, but 31 minutes. If you got this far, thank you. I know I talk a lot, but it just has to be said. So, yeah, I think that's it for now. But I could go on all day about this, but I'm trying not to, because I don't want to like drag it out too long. But I mean, if you need, to just do some soul searching, everybody does. But it can be difficult, but it's got to be done. If you want to improve your life, it's got to be done. Because you can either let shit continue, or you can put your foot down and say, no, I want better. And that's it. And it's going to be whenever you make that decision. So just keep that in mind. Thank you for listening.